Working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for you is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for you.
Good afternoon, and I welcome you to another edition of the weekly program, Working for You. I am your host, Lesroy Williams. Wherever you are, we are very grateful for you that you are listening to this program, whether you're here in St. Kitts and Nevis, whether you're in the region, or whether you are further afield in the diaspora. You are very welcome. Today we are going to be speaking about fire, but not just fire, water too. But I have here with me officers of the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services. I have with me, I'm going to start on my left, Lesroy Caines, yours truly, I'm Lesroy too, who is the Fire Substation Officer and Coordinator of the annual Summer Safety Program. Then I have with me Abidas Samuel, who is the Deputy Fire Chief, and also Garfield Hodge, who is Fire Station Officer. Gentlemen, welcome to this program.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having us.
Whenever people hear the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that you are there to put out fires. But today we are going to learn a lot more, that the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services is not just about putting out fires or sitting down and waiting for some fire to start while you play dominoes or something like that. Okay, so we are going to be discussing quite a bit, and you can tell me first a little bit about yourself, a brief background of yourself and your professional career. I will start with Lesroy.
Pleasant good day, everyone. My name is Lesroy Caines, Fire Substation Officer attached to the RB Airport Fire Services. I have 21 years of service presently. I'm a professionally trained aircraft firefighter for about 10 years now. And I'm also the coordinator of the St. Kitts Nevis Fire Rescue Services Summer Safety Program. 15 years of cultivating the culture of safety.
The general public you want to know about you. And then the good man that you are.
Mr. Samuel.
Sir?
Yes.
Yes. Greetings all the various listeners via the internet and otherwise, and in the wider diaspora. My name is Abidas Samuel. I'm presently the acting deputy fire chief, and I'm presently, in the absence of our fire chief, Mr. Everett Ogaro, who is on vacation. I am heading the department, and it's a pleasure. And thank you, Mr. Williams, for affording the Fire and Rescue Services the opportunity to come on a wonderful program like this. As I say, working for you, as we are working. The fire department is working for the general public as well. Sure. We are here to engage the general public and to be able to create a better public perception of the Fire and Rescue Services. As you are aware, we were once part of the police force. And so there was a stigma to the fire department, that the fire department was a place where you dump the persons that were slow, not stupid, but that was a bit slow. Hence, it's our responsibility now to let the general public know, listen, this is why you are paying for the public bus, the service you are paying for, and this is the service we are providing to you, and we are ready and willing to accept whatever request you are giving us to meet that mandate. So we need to educate the general public. Some persons still feel like we are police, right? And some persons still don't understand clearly what our true roles and functions are. We are not only, as I say, somebody who grab a hose and put water and a fire. No. It's more complex and technical than that is. So today, I want the general public, whether in the region, whether it's St. Kitts Nevis, to engage us, call in, and let us have a good dialogue.
Could you tell me a little bit about yourself and your professional career?
Sure. I have 17 and a half years of service. I wanted to be a police person. That was one of my things. Secondly, I wanted to be a soldier. And my third option was fire department. They went with the third option. I am versatily trained in a number of areas. A regional instructor for USAID also to work for SIDIMA in instructing. I have a lot of training on my background. My specialties is in the areas of hazardous material, emergency management, and also search and rescue. And facilitating is one of my passions. Fire department has become a great passion for me. You gotta have passion for something to do it for so long. So that's in itself. Actually, I'm presently working in Nevis. That's at Nevis. Out of my career, I've spent most of it in Nevis, having stints at all stations in St. Kitts, whether it be from Sandy Point Tabernacle to the airport Bastia, to both stations in Nevis. So that's in a nutshell a little bit about myself. And as we go along, feel free.
Sure. Okay. Right. Thank you. Mr. Hodge, Officer Hodge, could you tell us something about yourself?
I am, like you've said, I am Fire Station Officer Garfield Hodge. I've been a member of this wonderful service for 17 years, 4 of which includes university study, where I obtained a Bachelor's of Arts in Business Management at Cameron University, Lawton, Oklahoma. I am presently in charge of the municipal stations in the St. Kitts Division, which includes Bastia Fire Station, Sandy Point Fire Station, and Tabernacle Fire Station. So in a nutshell, all the fire stations in St. Kitts, save our aerodrome, which is our firefighting station at the airport.
Okay, thank you so much, Officer Hodge. Now, let us begin with what is happening presently. And presently, the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services has a summer safety program taking place. Mr. Caines, if you can tell us a little bit about that program, the annual summer safety program. I understand it's your 15th year. If you can give me, for example, a brief history, a background, some of the objectives of the program and so on, we'll appreciate that.
Okay, Mr. Williams, I'm going to give you a brief history of our fantastic summer safety program. It's been going for 15 years. We started in 2002 in St. Kitts with 45 children, and the following year, 2003, in Nevis with approximately 25 children. Now the program was introduced to alleviate or to try to decrease the incidence of fires caused by children, or death of children caused by fires, traffic accidents involving children, drowning involving children. So, brilliant idea came about from a former fire substation officer, Mr. 1984, who thought it best to introduce the program to sort of decrease those sort of incidents that are caused by children. Because you know, in the past 15 years, beyond before 15 years, there have been a vast increase in that sort of incidents. So the plan was sort of try to stop those or decrease those sort of incidents. Now we have a partnership with different agencies of the national security. For example, the Coast Guard. Security is Coast Guard who deals with the water safety. NEMO, Disaster Management Corporation, who deal with the disaster preparedness tips. And we have the Traffic Department, deals with the traffic safety. And also we recently introduced Mr. Percival, Lawson Percival, Constable Percival, to deal with crime and violence. We thought it best to introduce that topic, crime and violence, to sort of act as a tool to join the other forces, national security, to try and sort of decrease, as give our 2 pence in sort of crime reduction. So that was introduced in the program from this year. Now, about 15 years, we the program is held simultaneously at the different stations. I want to say, before I go on to that, it was held in Nevis successfully on the 3rd to the 7th of July, 61 children. And now in St. Kitts, we're presently running from 10th to the 14th of July 2017. Now the venues are Tabernacle Fire Station, Sandy Point Primary School, and Bastille Fire Station. Now today, Mr. Williams, the count for today was 526 children to date, average about 500 children per day. And this year we thought of to introduce 2 more days to try to make the program a little better, introduce something to make it a bit more juicy. And also at the end of the program, we for the 15 years to celebrate, to say we have introduced a march that we'll be going to the street of Bastille, and the final day on the 14th, we'll be starting at the Old Tamantree about 8:30. We're going along the Caines Street, east along Caines Street, we're going down Church Street, Liverpool Road, 4th Street, and back on Caines Street to the first station via Pan Road.
Now, I noticed that the target age that you have here is for children from 5 to 12. Why that age range, age group?
Well, it's 5 to 12 because we want to start to educate the children early, the earliest stage, so they know that in the early stage they know not to play with fire, not to play with matches. And you know, some children, Mr. Williams, even though you tell them, don't go in the kitchen, don't touch it, don't know how they're going to stop, even they touch it. So you're trying to want to make them, educate them. So when they hear, you know, not to touch the fire, touch the hot pot, then they know. And I must say, Mr. Williams, the inception of the program has been tremendously well, because since the inception we have not seen, we have not had any major increase of those fires incidents involving children. So I must say, I will give the fire services a tap on the back, and they say that we are doing a good job.
Now you speak about fire, but apart from, for example, your theme is 15 years of cultivating a culture of safety. So a culture, what we want is, you know, a way of life, a way of doing things, a way of awareness, consciousness. But you have a number of topics that you are covering during this safety program, this annual program.
Yes.
Could you outline, you know, what some of these topics are? I know you spoke about the crime and violence, given the climate that we're in today, but there are certainly other topics.
Yes.
Apart from fire.
Yes. Okay, the topics are water safety, traffic safety, disaster preparedness tips. Those are the topics that we teach the children, educate them in those other topics we have.
Okay.
If I may add, Mr. Williams, if you don't mind.
Sure,
please.
go.
Just to enhance what Mr. Caines said a while ago, is that one of the reasons why we targeted that age group between 5 and 12 is that our records will show that most of the fire incidents and other accidents or emergencies are normally found within the age range of 5 to 12. because that's the age where the children are a little curious and want to do little things.
Yes.
So by finding out by Miss Natalie Fo did some her research and we realized that is the age group that is mainly targeted. It's not only here in St. Kitts, but even throughout the region and internationally. What you find happening a lot is that is the age group that we tend to want to target them so that we could create that culture from that age. Remember, as they said, scientifically they're saying by the age of 7, that's when a child already mold his mind. So if we can get them within that age range, then we are being able to impact them in cultivating that culture of safety.
Yes,
right?
and making them aware of the environment.
The environment, correct.
And about danger and so on.
Yes.
And if I may add, we want to appeal to parents because these incidents clearly reflect poor parenting at home. In respect to children being home alone, we are appealing to parents. Do not leave children unattended at home for long durations, because during these times the children become very curious and they start to engage in things that we wouldn't want them to, especially when it comes to lighting fires. Children might be very, very, very curious. So we want to appeal to parents. Do not leave your children at home alone for long durations.
So you keep things away from them like matches and lighters and
correct.
all of those things that they can get their hands on.
Yes,
that's correct.
That's correct. Mr. Williams, if you look at anything that is dangerous, according to international standards, they must have a label if they will endanger children. Look at it, you will see keep out of reach, keep children's reach, right? And it's important. There's a reason why that is there. It's because that is a hazard to the child. So that's an indicator for you not to put anything that would endanger your child. How are we going to have sustainability of our population if we don't take care of our children?
Right. So that is why what you are doing becomes so critically important, because you are developing an awareness
correct
among children in terms of what is dangerous,
definitely,
what they should not play with,
correct,
and how these dangerous things can have a harmful effect on them.
Correct, definitely,
and so on. Because sometimes children are such that children are playful; they are not aware of things. But if at that age group, 5 to 12,
yes,
you can develop that awareness among them in terms of danger,
right,
safety, and all of that.
Right. As a matter of fact, Mr. Williams, I could add, we can look at, I saw a story where a 5-year-old in Florida, she was able to call 911 just because in school she was exposed to a program like this, and she was able to take the phone, call 911, and let them know simply that her grandmother is down and is not responding, and he saved her life. So that is what we want to engrave in our children here in the Federation. Listen, we want you to be a contributor to safety. Yes. So this is why we have such a wonderful program, and it has been consistent for 15 years. And again, I want to thank the men and women, especially Mr. Caines and his committee, for continuing. But not only that, but I want to thank the Ministry of National Security for the support that they give to the program, and also the sponsors. We cannot do it without the sponsors.
Right. Now you have people that come in with different areas of expertise.
Yes.
For example, the traffic safety. You have people from the traffic department that comes in.
Yes.
And disaster safety, you partner with NEMA.
NEMA, correct.
You partner with
NEMA.
NEMA
Sends a representative to disseminate the information to the children. So it's not that the fire department doing everything on its own. We have the umbrella, but we have the partnership with stakeholders who will come in and bring their expertise to the program.
Now, what you're doing is so important, because especially in terms of whatever disaster we have, whether they be man-made or natural, children are always at risk.
Oh yes.
And even with we have to look out for the children.
That's our future.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And even with, you know, traffic safety and so on, if you realize sometimes you're driving, children are very playful and they just run across the road and so on. They don't have a care in the world and so on. So you have to have an extra eye
Yes.
for them.
Yes. Yes.
You know, when people are driving in school zones and
Correct.
all of that sort of a thing, they must exercise some caution and some, but some people don't.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Yes.
But
For children can run across the street at any time. I suppose that was a good idea to have these crossing guards to really look after children, because we know the risk.
As a matter of fact, Mr. Williams, we have a regional training that is presently going on right now. And yesterday, while taking some of my colleagues from St. Lucia and Abidas around, they saw traffic wardens, and they was like, Mr. Samuel, what are those? I said, listen, those are the traffic wardens, and their job is to basically guide the children and stop traffic, so our children, our school, children and everybody else, even the pedestrians, any pedestrian will cross the street safely. And they were highly amazed.
Right.
Highly amazed. So yes, I concur with what you're saying.
Sure.
And in the absence of our traffic wardens during summertime, fortunately, we at our program we incorporate, like he said, traffic safety tips, where they're taught how to cross the road. You know, in fact, this morning at Sandy Point, I would imagine at Tabernacle as well, we had a traffic safety officer, including a police and a traffic warden, at our station, at our base, our camp in Sandy Point, and the children actually went up to the road and they had a practical hands-on session as to how to cross the road and how to walk in the road. So yes, so in the absence of the traffic wardens during summer, you know, they're taught how to cross the road.
Right. Another thing, for example, I don't know if you would have thought of, but children are usually attracted to people in uniform.
Definitely.
Yes, in uniform, and you know, children would say, "Oh, when I grow up, I want to be a fireman or a nurse or a doctor or so on." The uniform means something to them. Now, coming out of this program, you can have an impact upon young people in terms of even a career choice.
Definitely. And that's one of the objectives of the program as well. The fire department, the police force, the defense force, it's about continuity. We will always need these essential services. And we have to have good recruitment programs. Once they see particular behaviors of our officers, they will want to emulate that and be like us. I can tell you, we have persons who have joined the organization, Mr. Williams, who were actually on the program years ago, and they are now full-fledged member of the organization. So therefore, the program itself is a way of not only educating but recruiting for the fire department.
Sure. Now, and I think that's a very good thing.
Oh, definitely.
Mr. Williams,
You know,
let me put a little icing on the cake here. Mr. Samuel would have mentioned the police, the army. I would all due respect them. Ours is seen and deemed as the most noble of all. And the records would show.
Why do you say that?
The records would show when at our carriers fair, we have all the agencies within national security and within the Ministry of Health. The children usually flock our appliances, our fire trucks. They want to be firefighters.
Right.
And I mean, you can use me. Prior to 2002 when I joined, when I was enlisted, I worked at the High Court as a registrar clerk and an assistant bailiff. And every time I would see or hear the fire engine pass by, I get that adrenaline rush. And I had to change my profession. And here's where I am.
Right. Because when you're a young boy and so on, you want a fire truck as a toy.
Oh, yes,
exactly.
And that sort of a thing.
Yes.
Certainly.
As a matter of fact, to even put a double layer of icing on the cake, Mr. Williams, the number of applications that we receive for the fire department surpasses what we expect. I have persons with X amount of subjects applying. We have persons with all sort of qualifications applying. And it's just that persons have a passion. I mean, persons could challenge otherwise that, oh, I just need a job. But for me, I ain't looking at that. I'm looking at once you apply because you have a passion to do this. It's not the easiest job as people think.
It is a very risky
Very
job.
risky job. Listen, from
But
the time, when the time you enter the gates, you don't know if you're going home to the family the next day. And that's the seriousness of the job. You don't know. You just don't know. And I have lost friends and colleagues throughout the Caribbean region and in the international scene where, you know, they went to work and they died while on duty. It happens. It only takes a simple explosion. It only takes a simple fire that you fall, you get knocked out, you go unconscious, or you meet up with a hazardous material accident or incident where within 16 minutes of not receiving any oxygen, you're gone.
Okay. Now, tell me, what is the role of a fire officer? What are some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis? What is your job description? Because some people think probably that it's just about putting out fires. But, you know, fires only happen, you know, from time to time. They don't happen every day. But what do you do?
Good. Mr. Hodge seems to be a little eager to want to answer.
I'll give it to you.
So I'll give it. No, go ahead. Mr. Williams, I will give it to Mr. Hodge.
I will attempt.
I will attempt. And I will assist
in some way,
you,
and you will assist.
Sure.
In our organization, like any other organization, we have different layers, different job titles, and different job description. But the number one thing, the most common of all amongst us, all ranks, is fire prevention. And like you've mentioned at the beginning, we've been stigmatized as a bunch of men with at the fire station sitting down and playing dominoes. That's no longer the case. In fact, the records show that we are doing work and we're working very hard. We are working very hard. I can speak, for example, for Sandy Point. In 2015, when I took command there, we had a number, 120 fires for that year. And we had, from that number, we had 25 house fires. In 2016 now, we had a reduction of 96 fires with 13 house fires. Now, the difference in number tells you that, hey, we had a decline. And that decline came about as a result of our fire prevention drive.
Sure.
We have engaged the PTA within our district at all schools, and also we have also utilized our fire prevention unit at Bastia. They're mainly geared at they mainly operate at the business establishment, where we, as opposed to the units in Sandy Point and Tabernacle, we target the schools, because the PTA, as you would know, represent a wide cross section of the population. At the PTA, we have partnered with Carib Supply. We demonstrate with it a fire extinguisher and a smoke detector. These two life-saving devices can save or prevent your $500,000 investment on your home from going up in flames. And at on that platform at the PTA, we encourage parents, persons, everybody to get these life-saving devices. The extinguisher, the fire extinguisher, costs a mere $350, and some of them, some parents will require. That's a lot of money. But a cell phone costs about $500 or more, and they readily will buy it. As opposed to $365, that would save $500,000 home. That's a huge investment. So we want to appeal to everyone. We're happy for this platform to engage you to get these two life-saving devices: the smoke detector, which alerts you when a fire is about to start, and the fire extinguisher, which simply extinguishes the fire.
So you're basically saying that every home should have these two devices.
Yes.
A smoke detector and a fire extinguisher.
A fire extinguisher. And if we had our partners from the planning unit, I think that would have been incorporated in our laws. that it is mandatory.
Now, is it mandatory for businesses to have those things?
Certainly.
Is it by law?
Certainly, according to the planning,
Planning ordinance. Yeah.
The planning ordinance. I'm not versed at it at all. I don't know if anyone here is, but yes.
And how do you police this? Do you go around and make checks that this is in place? Because we are talking here about safety.
Yeah. Okay. When we, as Mr. Hodge said, officers for fire prevention do carry out inspections. When these inspections are done, all deficiencies noted are reported. However, I must say, we are still working and enacting some laws to help us enforce these things. But some of our partner agencies do have some laws that can be utilized. So what we do is inform them, right? Inform them that, hey, listen, we visited this place and this is happening. For example, one of those partners is the Labor Department, because they uphold the OSH standards, occupational health and safety standards, and also the building board. There too, we advise them. Okay. As a matter of fact, the chief fire officer sits on the building board, so we have that influence. And one of the things that we have done lately, is that we have engaged the insurance companies.
Yes.
We had a meeting with them the other day, and we said, listen, in order to protect assets, protect you and protect the general public and you in particular, we need to advise your personnel to listen. We need to put these safety measures in place. We just visited the Park Hyatt over at the peninsula, and Mr. Williams, I can tell you, those people I have not seen one business place have so much fire-related prevention system, right, integrated into their buildings and otherwise, like they have. And it's because they understand the need to have these things to protect. Because it could start with a little spark within a wire. That if you had a simple extinguisher, could have saved you from over $400,000 or $400,000 or $4 million loss damage. A simple extinguisher that costs you less than the cell phone that you have. Even you, Mr. Williams, it's in a nice cell phone that you have. Right? So, that is what we're trying to encourage. But just let me add a little bit to the structure, because persons don't understand our structure yet, Mr. Williams. The fire department, our responsibility is to carry out, first and foremost, fire prevention. We need to educate people. What do you prefer, Mr. Williams? That your house burn down, or do you prefer that we help you with systems that will protect your investment? That's one. Two, we are also responsible for dealing with situations with hazardous materials or weapons of mass destruction, incident, accidents, or involvement. That is any incident where there's a release of anything that can cause harm to the environment, to people, to property. We are the lead agency that will go into that.
Anything that is inflammable.
Inflammable, anything, right? Out of the 9 classes of hazardous materials.
So you educate people about those things, that you should have heat around them and so on, that they can...
Correct. I mean, ensure that they have the necessary signage, okay, to provide information as well. Also, the fire department is also responsible for the aircraft firefighting, which is critical. It is important to note that unless you have a functioning fire station, aircraft firefighting station, no jets can land at our ports, or airports. None. So right now, if the fire department at the airport goes haywire, there is no way any of our people, and you know what that will do to our economy. So that's a critical area as well. We also are responsible for search and rescue. You know how much time I have to send officers up in the mountains to bring down tourists who go up there, and what they tell us most of the time, they see the vines and they hold on the vines and they like to just swing on the vines. That's their fun. Fine. But then they end up, they slip, they fall, they break a leg, break the ankle or something, then my officers have to go.
I've even seen firefighters rescuing pets.
Trust me, we've had that here as well. You know how much time we go, we have donkeys or even horses that are falling well, we have dogs and people call, and we have to go. We have to go and save them. It's part of our society. You understand? And then we're also responsible for medical. We also assist and complement the EMT, emergency medical services, with medical practices. But what I want to highlight is fire prevention is our greatest mandate. It's more 70% basically fire prevention, and the other 30% is just physical, because we know we have the capacity, we have the ability. But our main job is to go out there and educate. Okay, that is critical.
Sure.
So we're not playing dominoes. But however,
you do play dominoes.
We do.
But
not only that, we have to do a little thing, a little recreation. Everybody does.
We have to socialize.
We have to socialize, so that officers, that's a way of keep the morals up. And when we go to incident, I can tell you, I remember a situation in a particular countryside, I don't want to be too specific, where I was in charge of a shift, and when we responded, we dealt with death. I dealt with death of 3 children. It traumatized me. It traumatized me big, because I was the officer in charge, and it was hard to see when we opened that door. The fire didn't let us in, actually threw us back, and we had to fight with the fire, as if we were in a war zone. And when at the end of it, Mr. Williams, when we entered in there were 3, 7, 8, and I think it was 11-year-old dead. So officers do need a form of debriefing and recreation. Yes.
So your first call basically is to save lives.
Save lives, according to our mission statement. Like save lives and property, right, from dangers of any fires. Right. Now, Mr. Williams, also, I want to educate the public a little bit about structure.
What is the mission statement? Do you have it?
No, we don't have it here.
You don't have it here,
presently, right? But that's the mission encompasses that. Protecting life and property, right, and the general economy from the dangers of fires or explosions, right? Mr. Williams, is critical to point out the structure. I want to educate the general public. There are 6 fire stations in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. 6. There are 4 in St. Kitts and 2 in Nevis. The 4 in St. Kitts would include the one at the RLB International Airport, which is the fire station. Then we have the main station headquarters, which is at Bastia. We have one in Sandy Point, with right there next to the police station. We actually coexist. And in Tabernacle, we also coexist. Remember, we came from the police force.
Yes.
So we do coexist. In Nevis, we have the Charleston station, which is next to the police station. And then we have the one at the fire hall at the Vance Armory International Airport. There's a rank structure. Our rank structure starts with the CFO, which is the Chief Fire Officer, which is President Mr. Ogaro. Then we have the Deputy Fire Chief, which is just truly for now. And then it goes down to the Divisional Officer, which is stationed in Nevis. That is Mr. David Stapleton.
Commands
the Nevis Division. Then we have what I call Fire Station Officers. That is the rank where Mr. Garfield Hodge has, which is equivalent to an inspector. Then from there we come down to the Fire Substation Officer, which is Sergeant, as you see with the 3 stripes that Mr. Caines has. And then we come down to what you call a FSO, Fire Sub Officer, which is equivalent to a corporal. And then we have the Fire Officer, which is equivalent to a constable. So I wanted that because sometimes the general public get the distraction with the S's and F and the O's. So hopefully we can educate them, use this medium to educate them as to how the rank structure is. Right.
Okay, now in terms of, now you spoke to the rank structure.
Yes.
What about training, preparation, ongoing formation for fire officers?
Okay. All right. Presently, as an instructor myself, we have a recruit training that is going on now. I think it's in its 11-3.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thereabout. We train our officers for at least 8 to 12 weeks before they are considered to be officers. They have to go through this vigorous training. We further our training, in particular for the aircraft firefighting. We have a partnership with Toronto. I think Mr. Caines was successful in passing the course in Toronto. We have had our officers, we send them to England as well. And we have a number of partnerships with stakeholders in the United States where we send our officers to continue for the training. And we also use Trinidad and Tobago as a training port for us as well. So our officers get exposed to a wide variety of training, not only regionally or internationally, also locally.
Okay. Now, one night I was home and it was about 10 o'clock. And all of a sudden I see the house start to fill up with smoke.
Okay.
And I got a bit worried because I thought, you know, maybe something is burning, the house is on fire or something like that.
Right.
Now, the first thing I did was that I walked around the house to make sure that nothing was burning on fire.
Right.
I didn't see anything. I walked down the road a little bit. Then I see where the smoke was coming from. Somebody lit a fire and had me all worried that maybe my house was on fire.
Yes.
Now, what do you do about this? Because people are lighting fires in neighborhoods, and it can really be a nuisance. You know, apart from sometimes you have your clothes on the line, you wash your clothes, you have them on the line, and so on. And then sometimes these fires seem to be unattended,
yes.
so they can get out of hand.
Yes.
What do you get calls about this? What do you do about this?
First of all, Mr. Williams, I want to say to you and to the general public that this practice is illegal. According to the Small Charges Act in the St. Christopher Nevis Royal Police Force, one can be charged $500 or 3 months imprisonment, or even both, for this practice. It is not only illegal, I think it's very inconsiderate and very unneighborly. I have received calls and contacts from persons, and would you imagine, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, persons messaging me and contacting me and reporting their neighbor for lighting fires. You see, in St. Kitts, we have developed this culture of burning, and rather than properly or illegally or legally disposing of our waste, we resort to burning them in the backyard, which is illegal. And we have also used the PTA, and we have warned sternly individuals to desist from this practice. In fact, I've made it clear to the PTAs that going forward, this will no longer be tolerated. I've charged my officers that whenever we receive a call of this nature, contact the police and have them accompany you so that we can legally charge these persons. Because over the years we have preached, we have taught, and persons still are engaging in this act. It is a nuisance.
It is a hazard. It is a hazard because, I mean, you start a fire, and fire is something not to play with.
Mm-hmm.
It can spread, and if you don't control that fire, it can spell disaster.
You know, it is a fire hazard, but it's also a health hazard.
Right.
For persons like my son, who suffers from asthma. In fact, last night, my son was diagnosed with asthma.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to come to that conclusion.
Right.
I suspect that all along. We were just saying, he's wheezing. And some months back, we live next to an institution. I won't make mention of it.
Sure.
And they would, in the past, engage in illegal burning. They clear the land, and rather than legally disposing it, they would just burn it. I can recall some Friday afternoon, while leaving the house, I smelled it, but I couldn't stop. My son was at home. When I came back, I had to take him to the hospital, and I had to spend the entire weekend in the hospital. So I'm appealing to the general public, please desist from this practice. It is illegal. It is illegal, it is inconsiderate, and it is very unneighborly. And going forward, it won't be tolerated.
Okay, now suppose a fire starts. Suppose I have a little hut, and a fire starts in my hut. Now I might call the department, the fire department, for help. Okay, but it takes some time for the fire department to get there.
Yes.
Maybe by the time they get there, my house done burned down.
Yes.
So, what tips would you probably give to people in terms of if there's a fire, how they can mitigate the damages, the consequences of that fire, you know, destroying
The property.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quickly, Mr. Williams, before I answer the question, I just want to add to what Mr. Hodge is saying. In regards to the indiscriminate burning, which, as I say, is a culture now, we are really trying our best to work with it. One of the ways that we have addressed it is that the fire and rescue services, when you want to burn anything, normally persons are asked to come to the department. When coming to the department, an officer will go and do an inspection of the area. If you don't have the proper criteria, for example, having enough space, creating a border or something around the area, having enough quantity of water to be able to extinguish, having the whatever you have in a particular bulk, taking into consideration your surroundings, your neighbors, etc., etc. All these things will be taken into consideration. However, we are more now leaning, after consulting with the health inspectors, inspectorate department, and also other agencies, that I think it's best that we somewhat eliminate that. As Mr. Hodge is saying, I have had parents, in particular in Nevis, where persons call me at all hours because persons burn. I mean, burning when persons are home. And we have children who basically going to wheezing. One time I got a call that we had at least 4 children who were taken to the hospital for wheezing because of somebody indiscriminate burning. Yes, Mr. Williams, the best way for you to help yourself is to install fire detection mechanism. There is no other way. As Mr. Hodge said earlier, and I want to emphasize the point, if I can buy a $500 cell phone, Mr. Williams, which notifies you when somebody is calling you, Mr. Williams, I cannot see why you cannot invest 20 US, Mr. Williams, in a simple smoke detector that is going to make a noise to indicate to you, hey, something is happening. Once you're able to catch these fires in what we call the incipient stage, where it's just starting, then Mr. Williams, you might be able to just take a bucket of water or turn off your electricity.
An extinguisher.
An extinguisher, again. How
much does that cost?
An extinguisher.
$365 at Carib Supply.
Carib Supply.
Easy.
Yes. If you were to go and say that Mr. Hodge sent you, you just might get a discount. Yes.
Right. So, you know, this is important. $365 as opposed to Mr. Williams, listen to me carefully, an investment of $350,000 or $250,000. You tell me which ones outweigh who? Yeah. It's about priority, Mr. Williams. So we're asking the general public to humbly help themselves. Listen to us. We don't want your house to burn now. I want to respond to your house, Mr. Williams, because I want to give you some tips on how to make it.
You know, sometimes people normally think, you know, this can happen to people, but somehow they don't include themselves in that category of people, because a fire basically can happen anywhere and to anyone at any time.
Yes. Have you seen you saw what happened in England lately with the Grenfell Towers?
In England, yes.
The amount of, you see how quickly, and it was witnessed by the world.
Yes.
How quickly that fire took over a 25-something story building, and to date they still cannot account for the missing.
They can't. Well,
and you know, Mr. Williams.
That's what the New York Times says.
It says. Well, they said well, you know.
We can only conclude.
We can only conclude, right?
Yes.
So, Mr. Williams, we have to take examples from these things. In Guyana, just last week, the prison caught fire. And it was not small fire, it was a big fire where they had to evacuate the entire prison. So we are not going to allow those experiences for us to go without a lesson. That's why Mr. Hodge said we are going to get proactive, get out there to the general public, and educate them. So our officers will not be sitting on. They are not sitting on. They are actually working.
Okay.
Like you are working for you.
Yes. Now, when there's a fire, you use water, right? I mean, you use water. Is there any other thing that you use? For example, suppose there's a mass fire. Suppose, for example, we have a forest fire. What do you use?
You use water.
Huh?
Use water, the most common media. Water, the most common media use water.
Yes, but sometimes I see on TV and so on, you know, in some places very prone to forest fires, you know, in California and other places, especially when it's very hot and so on and dry. They seem to use like foam or some sort of, I see them, you know, but those are in aircraft.
Yeah,
Then you come and they...
It's a special firefighting chemical. It's extinguishing medium of chemical, a combination of a dry chemical with water, right? That why do even because you see what happens, Mr. Williams, that fire is so intensified that when the water hits it in small amounts, okay, or even in large amounts, it tends to vaporize before having the effect of extinguishment. So what the powder does, the dry powder does, is give it a heavier effect that even if you vaporize, the powder will suppress.
It blankets the oxygen.
Right? The oxygen, so that it will starve the fire. Also, what they do as well when it comes to these forest fires as well, is that they do backlighting as well. They look at the wind conditions, they look at other conditions, and they actually do a little bit of backlighting. Or what they try to do is not, you know, sometimes these things go 150 plus acres. But when it's small and they can contain it, they actually starve the fire by creating some path that the fire don't find anything else to eat.
Fire break.
Right, a fire break.
Once ago, I used to go to a disco. Well, I don't go there anymore. But I used to have a concern.
Yes.
And that concern is that that disco only had one exit. And sometimes I used to think, well, one entrance, the entrance is the exit. So I used to think, well, if a fire breaks out in that place, what the heck is going to happen here?
Right. Right. Well,
so buildings basically should have escape
routes. And more than one, they should have more than one means of egress and ingress. Right? Persons must be able to get out this way, and if the emergency happens, they get out another way. And one of the things here, Mr. Williams, is that a lot of us are not conscious to that. So a lot of us are not conscious to that. We want our house to look so fancy that we disregard safety. And some persons put other stuff ahead of safety. But how can you protect your investment and you don't have no safety precautions in it?
How are you going to get out?
How are you going to get out? For example, they have persons, and we keep encouraging people, when you're putting up burglar bars, put burglar bars with hinges. In the window is a means of egress. Put a burglar bar with hinges that you can actually open. Because if you're entrapped in a room and you cannot get out because the fire is in the hallway, you just cannot open. Mr. Williams, I'm telling you, once a fire intensifies, you cannot open. Then, Mr. Williams, you're going to be entrapped yourself in a room.
So we have to build with all these things in mind.
Definitely.
Emergency conscious.
Emergency conscious.
But our fire chief, as I said before, sits on the board and the building board. And when these concerns come about, he will advise against the passing such plans that don't have sufficient means of egress and ingress.
No.
Okay, Mr. Williams,
sure, go ahead, Mr.
Now, in our fire prevention, that's one of the things we tell the public, general public, to have evacuation plans. Not only to have them, but you have them and you practice them. Now and then you have your plan, you practice how to escape your house if you have a fire. Now to add on the burning aspect.
Yes.
Now there's a farm. There's a legal way to if you have an empty land, up to the way you want to burn some trash. There's a farm. You come to the fire department. You go as Mr. Samuel said. You go and investigate, and you have a farm, you full out. And then, depending on how we look, we give you permission.
Sure.
But there's a legal way. You come and you flood the farm, depending on the area where it's located, then you get permission. You know, so that's what I add my 2 pence in respect to that. The farm, you come to the fire station, we go inspect, and you feed the farm out.
Mr. Williams?
No, in addition,
We will soon have to go to the phone lines, but
Okay.
let's go.
Yeah.
Just in addition to my area, per se, at the airport, we too at the airport, we have some fire prevention training going on to the different agencies at the airport. We have fire extinguisher inspections, lectures. We're going to educate the different agencies at the airport, because we want to make our job a bit easier for us. You know, we don't want them to be scared. If they have a small dump and fire, we go and teach them how to use the extinguisher to extinguish the fire in the incipient stage at the early stage. So we sort of do a collaborative work, per se. We go in the community of the airport.
Sure.
You know,
Mr. Williams, let me just add that you see the airport firefighting is a critical element of our department. Very critical. Just this week, and a jet was landing in Heronaro in St. Lucia, Viewport, St. Lucia, and they got the call that one of the engines was on fire, and he had the entire department on the alert. Even the stations outside the perimeters of the airport was ready on the alert. So it's a critical thing, because you're talking about a plane with almost 150 to 200 people, and you have maybe 10, 11 men who have to respond to deal or rescue or combat that fire.
I've also heard of fires breaking out on cruise ships.
On cruise ships?
You imagine
Right.
you're on a cruise ship and a fire break out.
It happened in
What
Jamaica.
are you
the
going to
other
do?
day. Yeah, it happened in Jamaica the other day.
You jump overboard.
It's a critical thing, and you know, once that happens, we have to go into action. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
For editing purposes, the mission of the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire Rescue Services is to protect and to serve, protect and safeguard the life and property of citizens and the general economy from the dangers and effects of fires and explosions.
Okay, good. Now, in terms of statistics, with fires
Yes.
in St. Kitts, do you have statistics, and what have you found to be some of the common causes of fires?
Right. Now, to date, Mr. Williams, to date, let me just inform you, to date, we have had a total of 144 fires in the first half, just at the Basset fire stations alone.
The 12 tribes of Israel.
12 tribes of Israel. Tabernacle has had 41 fires. As simple as, you know, we got Tabernacle to be the kind of quiet station, but they have had 41 fires. Sandy Point has had 73 for the year, the half of the year so far. Now, when we look at these statistics, Mr. Williams, we have to dissect them. We have to dissect them, because if we see, sometimes people don't know, but sometimes, and it must be noted that persons may have ganja patches in the hills and they're actually burning out these things. So then we have to get our stakeholders involved, like defense force and the police. We have to give them this information and say, listen, we see a common behavior, and we know what this common behavior is in this particular area. This is what is happening, right? Bushfires, sometimes people just lighting indiscriminately. They dump the garbage in the bush and they don't want nobody, or they dump the animal or the livestock or whatever, and they just burn, and they don't take into consideration that it's going to spread. So a little wind, pick up a little ember, take it over to the other side. That ember gets a little more wind, you know, like, you know, sometimes when you're fanning something and then it takes off.
And there are combustibles.
There are
sometimes
combustibles
in
inside, plastics, and, you know, some, for example, I mean, look at a bob can. It's highly dangerous.
Yes.
If it has an impingement and a little fire get to it, it can pitch off like a projectile. So next time you Mr. William might be walking across, next thing you knock out, you're unconscious, you're at the hospital. Understand what I'm saying? So that's what we're asking. So these are the statistics that we have so long. And Nevis has 53. One station in Nevis has 53 calls for the year, which also includes some false calls. Now some people sometimes call say this happening, and when you look, we reach there's nothing really. Right? So those are the statistics that we have so far. I'm a bit concerned. I'm a bit concerned because we get a lot of calls, in particular in the districts of Bastille, which is covered from Stormfort Heights
To Keon.
Frigate Bay to Keon Brighton Estate in the east. right? And when you have that large district and we have all this happening, it means that we have to go out in the public and educate people more. So hopefully soon you will be seeing the fire department on TV, on radio, being more aggressive, using social media to get the programs out to the people that, listen, we want to keep you safe. And this is what we want you to do. All right?
Mr. Williams, if I might add, the Sandy Point district, unlike anywhere else, there's a cause for concern for that area.
In Sandy Point?
In Sandy Point.
The lighting of the fires there?
In respect to house fires.
Oh.
Yeah, we've been having a number of house fires and it's becoming a concern. Apparently persons aren't getting the message. Recently, it would have been less than 2 weeks ago, a young lady lost everything. Everything. And I have been to too many house fires incidents and I've seen too many tears. Sometimes fatal tears. And so you don't want to appeal to people, the general public. It can happen to you
anytime.
A fire incident is not isolated to you. It can happen to you. And so we're appealing to the general public. Take what we're saying to very seriously and be considerate of the fact that it can happen to you. And take the necessary precautions in respect to fire prevention. Get these life-saving devices, the extinguisher and the fire alarm. It is important.
If we really value our property, we will take these initiatives. You know, I remember once I was at the scene of a fire of a young woman. She lost everything in that house.
It's very
but there is something that I came away from it with, is that she was talking about her perfumes. She lost all her perfumes. And I thought about it and I said, look at that. You place
so much
even more of a value on your perfume than losing an entire house.
Yes. Amazing.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
It is really amazing.
Mr. Williams, let me tell you, when we do evacuation procedures, when we do practices and so on, you'll be surprised that sometimes the ladies turn back to pull the purse. Then you just run back for the purse or the bag and want to leave the Gucci handbag behind. Which one is more important, your life or the expensive bag? You tell me, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, I know. I suppose it's the things that we get so attached to.
Correct.
But we have to go to the phone line, so let us hear what the people have to ask us. What are some of their suggestions? And the numbers to call are 465-2555, that's the local number, 465-2555. And the overseas number is 1-718-577-2916. And for those of you who tuned in, probably a bit late, we're having a conversation with officers of the St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services. We welcome your calls. Working for you, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
About two years ago, right, there was a fire at a particular area. And when the firemen them came, they was up and down searching for the fire hydrant. I would like to know what they have been going forward to have this fire thing mark out. And secondly, when you finish out, put it out the house, you got the water, why you all throw away the gallon of water. I'm listening off air.
Okay, thank you, caller. Working for you, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Lesroy, and good afternoon to your guests.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Abba Lesroy, Abba, and Garfield Kid.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
When it comes to fire, how much different type of extinguisher are there? And what's the difference between an extinguisher for electrical fire and a regular fire? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for the call back.
Okay. We can take those two callers and their questions.
Garfield, go ahead.
In respect to the first caller who referenced a fire incident some 2 years ago, the fire hydrants, unfortunately, in St. Kitts, in some areas, are inadequately distributed, and so it poses a problem for us at the fire department. However, we are trying our best to collaborate with Public Works to address this situation, because it is very important, it is critical that we have equally an adequate distribution of the fire hydrants in respect to the locations of homes.
Let me just continue on that, because she spoke about throwing away gallons of water. We don't throw away water. What happens sometimes, Mr. Williams, and to the caller, is that the fire truck has to be replenished right away.
Mm-hmm.
When the truck is being replenished, it reaches a point where the tank has an overflow. So while the hydrant pressure is into the truck, the indicator is the overflow.
Mm-hmm.
So when it overflows, you see the officers turns off the hydrant, and as it turns off the hydrant, the water will continue, the pressure will continue still, so a bit of water will run over the overflow. People see the overflow running, and they will think that we are throwing away water.
Mm-hmm.
No, we are not really throwing away
Sure.
water, right? With what Mr. Hodge is saying, we are working with the water department, because sometimes the water department may put down some hydrants and we don't know about them. So we are working with them right now to develop that relationship, that as soon as a new development goes down and they put a hydrant there, then the officers, but let me say, Mr. Williams, fire officers do what you call hydrant patrol. They do hydrant patrol. And the officers go, they clean the hydrant. If you need painting, they will paint it. And if they need marking, they will mark it. And there is a register back at the station that they will make the necessary notes and inform the supervisor of their findings and recommendation, and then we will address them accordingly. Sometimes what you may have is that an officer may just be transferred from Nevis, and unfortunately he's transferred from Nevis and he get a call the same day or the next day, and that officer may, in his capacity, attempt to go find a hydrant real quickly. So you may see an officer looking for a hydrant and so on, but it's not that we don't know.
But Mr. Samuels, that I think is an extremely serious matter.
Yes, it is.
And there should be a mapping
of
all of these fire hydrants, otherwise
yes.
it can seriously impede your work.
I agree.
In terms of when there's a fire. So I think that should be something of urgency.
It is.
That really should be looked into.
As a matter of fact, in Nevis we have already corrected that. In Nevis we have worked with the water department and planning, and we actually have a map out in Nevis of that. And it's something that we are looking forward to working with the planning and water department here, so that we could have that. Going forward, our forecast, our projection is to get some technology like in the United States, where once you press something on the screen, it can pop up and tell you have X amount of hydrants in these locations.
Yes.
It's very, I agree with you, it's very critical, it's very important, and it's a priority for us to get it addressed.
Mm-hmm.
OJ. Yes.
Okay.
The other question Valti posed was the fire extinguishers, the various types. There are multiple types of fire extinguishers, ranging from water, dry chemical, dry powder. We have CO2, well, halon, but halon is somewhat obsolete now. And which is kitchen. No. And foam as well.
Yes.
No. He asked the difference for electrical. For electrical, what you want is a fire extinguisher that has an extinguishing media that will not conduct electricity. What will happen is that when you're buying an extinguisher, you will see them with the different pictographs that will tell you that what they will be good for. But what we recommend most for electricity is either dry chemical or CO2, which will not conduct any electricity.
Mm-hmm.
But water will conduct electricity, so we don't recommend any type of water extinguisher for where you have a lot of electrical components. Anything you want to add, anybody?
Just to add, when it comes to electrical fires, we thought the best thing to do is de-energize right. the equipment or the electrical source. That way we have a relationship with Skillet. We have fires in the areas, we call them whenever and they lock off the electricity in that area. So we want to first de-energize the item and the equipment, and then we treat it as a class A fire, which is ordinary combustible materials, depending on the material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you unplug the microwave and then you apply water.
Yes.
You do not apply water before you unplug the...
No, de-energize. That's why I say de-energize.
Yes, we just want to break it down.
Yeah. Unplug, yes.
Very good. Yes.
Okay. While we're at it, I would like for you to tell the audience or to give the audience some safety tips in terms of fire prevention. I think that is extremely important.
Very important. I agree with you, Mr. Williams. I agree with you. Mr. Caines, right?
Okay, some fire tips. We want to tell the smokers, for example, I don't want to pinpoint them, but sometimes when they use the smoking to relax them, so they think it's best to go in the bed and smoke. Smoking in the bed is not allowed. Not allowed.
Or some people will think they're romantic and take candles and so on up in the bed and so.
And you know what I mean? And sometimes up to yesterday, I heard on the news, this lady, she got electrocuted. She was in the tower and she thinks it's best to reach for her phone. And reach for her phone and she get electrocuted. So we want to tell them once you're in the tub, do not put your phone close to the tub. Now, children are not allowed to play with matches. When you're lighting candles in different areas in the house, make sure they're not close to any curtains. Close to the window, the curtain will blow and they catch the flame, and then right then you have a fire starting right there. You know, so those are some of the safety tips we want to pass on to the children. Now we want to we have a Facebook site, so we want you to log on our Facebook site. Mr. Hodge, you that now the Facebook site, we want to get it and the general public. It's I can't remember.
Second Fire Rescue Services.
Second Fire Rescue Services 2000 SKNFRS.com. That's our Facebook site. We want to encourage the public to go and log on, and we'll see some tips. We're going to be posting on it every now and then.
But it's most important, though, Mr. Williams, to the general public in particular, one of the things we want to encourage them to do, because we have our cell phone usage is one of the things that's increasing right now. And one of the things people like to do is either charge the cell phones and have them on the bed, just leave it on the bed. And we have seen worldwide that a lot of fires have started like that. What we are saying to you, be careful of where you place your cell phone when you're charging it. If you realize, almost anybody who is here, when you're charging your cell phones, generate heat because of the type of batteries now that are being used in the cell phones. Okay, so this lithium battery, they have to charge each cell, and when charging these cells, they heat up. And if you place your pillow under this heat and the heat is continuously generated, then the cloth itself will eventually reach to its combustion ignition temperature. And if it reaches to the ignition temperature without you even being, next thing you find yourself on fire on a bed. One of the things, again, we want to encourage people is when you're cooking, you always see people with all sort of towels and all sort of stuff over the shoulders, or people hang towels close by. A little wind blow through the window, next thing you see that the towels is on fire. Sometimes we have little, we're taking up a pot with little things, and we're taking up things with little pot, and then we just throw it down and we go. For example, sometimes too, we are cooking, and while cooking,
there's a caller. Let me interrupt you.
Sure.
Working for you. Good afternoon.
Working for you, Lesroy. How are you? This is your good friend here.
Yes, Jamdo. Good afternoon.
I have a few questions for them fire officers, because they talk about everything about the youth, but from the old Galloway, God bless him, old fire chief Galloway, we get technological now in terms of computer. You understand? That's why I want to put something. Who is the senior rank there in charge?
Mr. Abidas Samuel. He's the Deputy
Mr.
Fire
Samuel,
Chief.
So good afternoon.
Yes, Jamdong. How are you, Jamdong?
I'm all right.
Okay.
So, we're having a big problem around Bastille with these culverts. And over the years, when I was a little boy, Cecil Moulay Roberts, along with Mr. Galloway as the fire chief, used to make the officers them use the fire pumps them around the island as a jail. You don't see that no more. You find like when we have hurricane and so, them boys will come out and use the seawater to clean the road. You don't see that no more. You understand? We got a lot of young men around, and I see some in your organization, and I feel that one of them should really play in the role there. For instance, them big drain up by the fire department, the big drain there. All them things supposed to clean. You use the seawater. This is how I come up seeing it, watching firemen in my area doing this kind of work. You don't see it no more. And it's a big concern because elders talk about it. Young men who was growing up in them time there used to see that, and I could come and tell I about it. Because it appeared to me like a lot of IO. In this country, we just, when a man serve all his youth in a department, we just push them aside. And nobody there to bring through the young ones, them coming through to carry it for another 30, 40 years. And this is a problem. You all speak so nice, but these things lacking. And I would like to see something happening all over you. I want to get a few guys who will be dealing with these kind of things. Like, for instance, Carnival. January morning. The latter buckles in them things don't happen years ago. The fire department will play a role and help clean up the place. I was so shocked Saturday gone. We had this storm. I'm going in front of the market gate, the public market gate. You still got mud down there where people walking in the... Come on, visitors in the coming to the country. You see me here out in Port Sante? Every tourist asks me where the local market is. Sometimes I leave me walk and walk them down there. And for where I see him going on down there, I don't like it. Anyway, good show. And that's why I keep working. It's working for this country.
Thank you, Jamdo.
Thank you, Jamdo, for your contribution and your question, your concern.
Working for you, good afternoon. Hello? No, there's no one on the line.
Okay. Okay, we can address. I thank Jamdon for his concern, expressing his concern and so on. And I think he should appreciate that the other day, when after the storm, Director of Public Works and I had a dialogue, and my office, as a matter of fact, he even called me and congratulated the hard work that the men put in helping to clean. Actually, they spend hours upon hours from afternoon till night, helping with the cleaning process of restoring the area to normalcy. The officers, I think, and I want to applaud those officers and the department in a whole for that job that they did to that sort of contribution. And the aspect of cleaning drains, I think there's a responsibility. There's a department that is responsible for that, and in time to time we do assist the health department in such. However, Mr. Caines, let me make it abundantly clear, and I will stand by my word that our job is not to wash and drain. You have to differentiate between washing down a drain and being ready to respond to a call.
That's right.
And I will stand behind my officers and my stance that we will contribute, we must contribute to this, but that is not our main primary role and function. Because how can we justify that you were blowing a drain and we allow a house to burn down, or we were able to respond to an emergency? However, we will assist when we can, and we have been doing it for years, and we will continue to do so when we can, definitely. And I agree with Jamdong that, you know, we all need to play a role in keeping our country clean, etc., etc., etc. So yes. Well, however, cleaning a drain is not part of our drill. We have means and ways of training purposes in keeping our officers under control, and every now and again you will see that training sessions are done. But yes, again, we will assist in contribution to keeping our country clean. Yes. Anything
you
else?
Had something to say,
Mr. Hodge?
I'm certain that with all that we have outlined in respect to our workload, I'm sure that Mr. Jamdown and the general public would appreciate the fact that it is too much to ask for at times for us to blow down drains and to go and actually clean up after events, bottles and other pollutants. That's certainly not in our job description. You just might want to engage another establishment, another organization, another ministry. But like the Deputy Fire Chief said, we will assist in any way possible. In fact, it was just as last week, we were called upon by the Ministry of Health to assist in washing down a drain at Sandown Road. And we readily said yes.
Okay. Now, we're almost out of time, but before we go, I will ask you two questions, and then we can wrap up. Now, given the important work that you do as fire officers, what kind of support are you given in terms of infrastructure, equipment for the department, so that you can carry out your work, and so on?
Mr. Lesroy Caines, I wish at this point to Lesroy Caines, and Lesroy Williams, and to the listening audience, I think at this point to outline the support that the Ministry of National Security has been given to the fire department. I want to outline that one of the things that we have seen of recent is that the ministry even increased our manpower. Right, it has been increased, and I think that is kudos. And to that, we want to give our commendation to the ministry for taking that bold step, because I know there's priorities, and everybody wants manpower, and the ability to go beyond the stigmatization and be able to believe in what we do and give us manpower. That was critical. We also have been receiving support. Our permanent secretary has been very active in supporting us in acquiring and procuring equipment, and modern equipment at that. So with that said, I think the ministry has been rather active in getting us the necessary equipment to carry out our work. We are, as we speak, we are expecting a $1 million EC plus truck to enhance the category at the airport. And once that truck arrives, we are going to be contending with the likes of Brantley Adams and Piaco International.
How many fire trucks do you have in total between St. Kitts and Nevis?
In St. Kitts and Nevis. Okay, at the Basset Fire Station at the present moment, we have 2 that are active, and one that is, well, we have one that is waiting for repairs, and then we have what you call 2 skid packs, which are smaller, quick response trucks that are basically in the repairing stage. We are repairing them. At Sandy Point, we have 1 truck. At Tabernacle, we have a truck as well that hopefully we are hoping to get replaced soon and very soon. And at the airport, we have what you call 2 Panthers. That is have us at a category 8 right now, which, well, 3, but 1 is in repair as well. But you have us at a category 8, meaning that we could accommodate large jets coming into the country. Okay, and case in point, Lesroy, just important it is. The other day, and they called me and reported to me that the Antigua airport had closed down and all flights were diverted to St. Kitts. If we didn't have the proper firefighting equipment to meet the category, how could we have been able to assist our neighboring islands? And I'm glad that the government has taken the initiative to continuously support equipping the airport fire hall in particular. They have shown a great interest in that. At Nevis, in Nevis, we have the 1 truck that was donated to us via the European Union project. That's at the Charlestown Fire Station. And in Nevis, we have 2 trucks at the Valsamri Fire Hall.
Okay.
So a total of 13 fire appliances.
Sounds a lot.
11, yeah.
11,
sounds
a lot.
11 active.
It sounds a lot, Mr. Williams, but we need more.
Okay. Now, the department, what are some new initiatives? Are there any new initiatives in the fire department?
Definitely
of
so.
Recent?
In order to keep the fire department with modern operational, with modern standards and up-to-date standards, you have to implement initiatives. You have to. One of the initiatives that we want to do now is we want to create partnerships to get a more robust, a more engaging and proactive fire prevention program. When we say fire prevention program, we want all stakeholders involved. So, of recent, I've had a meeting with the, as I said before, with all the insurance companies, and they're on board. What we're gonna do now is how do we reorganize the organization to develop different units within the organizations and be able to outfit these units so they can better create efficiency in carrying out our tasks and creating that culture, not only to educate, but be ready to prepare to any respond to any major events or emergencies.
Sure. Is there anything that you would like to say in wrapping up? Because basically we are out of time.
Okay, yes, Mr. Williams, I just want to say thanks to you and SKNS, and I want to thank the sponsors for this year's Summer City program. And I want to welcome more sponsors on board, because the more help we get is better for us. The initiative we're doing to educate the children ages 5 to 12 is something we're doing outstanding.
You want to name the sponsors?
Some of the sponsors, namely we have Type Supply, Delta Petroleum, we have ZZ, of course, ZZ. We also have WinFM, KFC. We also have... No. Okay. We also have on board with us, we have we also have Social Security, Development Bank, Nevis Cooperative Credit Union, I think it's Cooperative Credit Union, First Caribbean Bank, National Bank, Disney Plantation, Van Radio. We have Ministry of Education. We have Lime Beach Bar, Total Time, Youth and Sports. Can't forget the St. Christopher Nevis Police Force, Ramses Trading, our neighbors at the back at the Springfield Defense Force, Nevis Hotels, Bank of Nevis, Four Seasons, TDC Limited, and that's about numerous to mention. So many we can mention. So I want to say again, thanks to all the sponsors, and welcome more sponsors on board.
Yes. Mr. Williams, before you end, I have to highlight something very quickly before I know we are a little bit over time, but with your permission, I want to highlight the new engagement. We have had a new commitment by Delta. You know, Delta came on board with a program, more money. And they said, listen, to finish off the previous contract that we agreed to, engagement, they're going to increase it to $4,000 for the next 2 years to finish this one. And going forward for the next 5 years,
they'll give you 5,000.
They're going to give us $5,000 for the next 5 years. That's $25,000 towards the development of a culture-based society in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Culture of safety.
Culture of safety. Definitely. Yes, Mr. Hodge. So again, to the general public and to everyone, on behalf of the rank and files of the fire department, we are here to serve you. Engage us. We are not playing dominoes. We are working for you, just like you, Mr. O.
Yes, we would want to encourage other business establishments to come on board as we venture to create that culture of safety in St. Kitts and Nevis. Other establishments like Digicel, Flow, and what have you, come on board. Together, we can work for the general public. And again, we want to thank you very much, Mr. Williams, for this opportunity to engage the public.
Yes.
And to all, remember, it can happen to you. So take the necessary precaution by getting a simple fire extinguisher and a fire alarm for your home.
Yes, Mr. Williams, I responded to a call at West Bongott where I grew up. When I reached there, as the ambulance driver, Guess who house it was?
Oh,
Mine.
okay.
It can happen.
That's
to
a
you.
message. Can happen to anyone.
Yes, and you know, fire is something that it is a friend and it is a foe.
Good servant
Yes.
and a bad master.
Good stuff.
It's a good servant,
And a bad
Very
master.
bad master.
Terrible master.
a bad master.
But I like
And there are so many proverbs or sayings
Yes.
that have to do with fire. When your neighbor's house is on fire,
Go on with yours.
you go and wet yours, which really is that we must take precautions. And,
Yes, yes, yes.
and we must learn
Yes.
from.
Yes.
Another thing is, if you play with fire, you're going to
Get burned.
you're going to get
Right,
burned.
definitely.
You know, all of those things that deal with fire, which helps us to recognize,
Yes.
on one hand, the importance of fire,
Yes.
and on the other hand, the deadliness of fire.
Fires. Yes.
And the same thing can go for water too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Definitely.
You know, so
Yes. So we want to encourage everything, Mr. Williams. Good
Right.
safety practice.
so safety practices,
Safety
a culture of
practice,
safety,
A culture of safety.
and to start with the young children
Yes.
from 5 to 12,
Yes.
I think is so important.
I agree with you. I concur, sir.
Right. So I want to thank you again. I want to
Yes.
thank you,
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Williams.
Hodge,
Yes, sir.
Garfield Hodge, who is fire station officer, Mr. Abidas Samuel, deputy fire chief,
Thank you, sir.
and Lesroy Caines, fire substation officer and coordinator of the annual summer safety program, which has been going for 15 years.
Dedication, Mr. Williams.
That is really testimony
Yes.
to the work that the fire department is doing, and as your team said, 15 years of cultivating a culture of safety. So thank you, gentlemen, again.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
You have been listening to another edition of Working for You. I want to thank all who called in and shared, who asked questions, who gave suggestions, very constructive, and so on. And all of you who listened to today's program, we appreciate you very much. We will be back next week for another edition of Working for You. I am your host, Lesroy Williams. Have a good day.